If you feel like you are constantly drowning at work, you are statistically in good company. Surveys show that more than half of the modern workforce feels overworked, and a solid 14% report being chronically overwhelmed. There is a critical difference between your baseline state of being normal busy, where you have a lot to do but nothing falls through the cracks, and the breaking point of true overwhelm. At that breaking point, routine tasks start to fail. You might find yourself frozen in the shower, unable to remember if you've washed your hair, or dealing with such dense mental fog that you stumble down the stairs. Your body initiates a physical panic response. You can be sitting perfectly still at your desk, and your smartwatch will suddenly trigger an alert because your heart is racing and you are struggling to breathe. These physical red flags reveal that chronic overwhelm has escalated into a literal biological hardware failure. In computer science, thrashing happens if you bombard a single core CPU with too many simultaneous instructions, freezing it. The processor spends all its energy swapping tasks in and out of memory. This context switching consumes all computing power, resulting in zero actual work. Your brain operates like a single core processor. The idea that we can effectively multitask is a biological myth. Since quitting your job and abandoning your life usually isn't an option, you have to reprogram your internal operating system to stop the thrashing. Software developers solve this problem by building a minimum viable product, or MVP. It is the absolute smallest, most stripped-down version of an application that still delivers core value to the user. You can create the psychological equivalent of this, called the minimum viable you. This is the smallest possible version of yourself required to demonstrate basic value to yourself, your family, and your stakeholders. The first patch you need to install is mindset management. You have to actively identify and cut off the negative self-talk loops that eat up your valuable mental RAM. Operating as your minimum viable you is an emergency protocol. It is designed exclusively to help you survive an immediate crash by drastically reducing your active cognitive load. To trim the mental fat, you can adopt a methodology called Scrum for One, which relies on getting every single task out of your internal memory. Trying to hold every obligation in your head is dangerous. It guarantees you will eventually drop critical information under intense duress. Once everything is on an external list, you must execute ruthless triage. Divide everything into things you should do versus your absolute musts. For those absolute musts, you apply a rule called eating the frog. You force yourself to execute the hardest, ugliest task first thing in the morning, getting it completely out of your way. You also have to set what are known as floor goals for your own self-care. If a full 1-hour yoga session is impossible today, you replace it with 1 undeniable minute of deep breathing. Establishing these lower floor goals prevents a total system failure because they give you targets that you literally cannot fail to hit. Adopting an MVY mindset replaces societal guilt with a strategic mastery of your personal first principles. Consider the history of the old-fashioned cocktail. It perfectly illustrates the difference between blindly following a bloated template and understanding base mechanics. The original 1806 definition of the drink didn't include specific brands or rigid instructions. It was simply spirits, sugar, water, and bitters. Mastering those stripped-down base principles is what allows you to survive, adapt, and remix under any constraint. There is immense relief in finally stripping away the bloated templates of what society dictates you are supposed to be doing. This emoji scale shows that human capacity is not static. It has to safely expand and contract based on the stress of your environment. By giving yourself permission to run a minimum viable operating system during a storm, you preserve the exact energy needed to scale back up to your ideal self when the skies finally clear.